before we hear from Mike or before the presentation?
No,
Our presentation.
it'll probably be after the presentation.
Oh, really?
I want to go into executive session.
We're live. Live.
When do you want to?
I want to executive session just with you prior to. I'll ask for it.
Okay.
Okay.
8:30. Look at that. I call this meeting of the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners to order. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate that. Commissioner Shainfeld is on the road for business, and so she'll be joining us later in the meeting for discussions and perhaps some votes as well. So we do have a quorum present with 4 members here in the chambers today. If you would join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a moment of silence afterward. Commissioners, welcome aboard. We have an agenda, and I would look for your approval for that agenda this morning.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve. There will be no executive session for the federal cooperator section.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to amend the agenda that we have a executive session just prior to, I believe it is tab Q on county fire review findings and recommendations. Executive session prior to tab Q.
Thank you. So we have an amendment proposed. Do we have a second on that amendment?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roy?
I said aye,
Thank you.
just not as loud as normal. I apologize.
Don't be all quiet down there. Okay. And then back to our agenda with the amendment.
Mr.
approved.
Chairman,
Yes.
I believe we have people present that may show up regarding the discussion item tab Q, and I would like to see us, I'd like to see us provide public comment. And I can, as we move into tab Q, public comment as well as for the people that are here, as well as the communications that I've been receiving regarding tab Q. So I'd request also the agenda be amended to allow public comment after the presentation of tab Q.
We have a motion for an amendment to have public comment after.
Yes.
You. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a question. I'm not opposed to putting public comments in that spot. But if we're going to put public comments in that spot for fire, should we hold all fire comments until then? Because I definitely do think there is comments to be made in that area. I also think no matter what happens today, one of the things this commission can consider is after information is provided, if a decision is not made, is to looking at a workshop to also get greater public comment if needed. And that could be a process we take too, instead of even looking at the concept of Q, your concept after Q. So I just want to put those thoughts in the board there too. And just some thoughts there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. In response to Commissioner Lloyd's, I agree fully that we can do both. Because I think there are people here that would like to comment, and also we've received some, and those written ones, people are expecting and truly would like us to represent them with their comments today, which would support Commissioner Lloyd have going into additional workshops for or public hearings, whatever you want to call them, for people to comment before moving forward. So I think what you're talking about in both arenas would work well, but I think people do wish that have sent comments for this agenda type for today would like their comments represented for the record, as well as if necessary, Commissioner, I'd certainly support and encourage us to do the second part, which would be more public input from our county representatives, especially those that are in the unincorporated areas and highly impacted by any decision that's made. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to clear, there would be public comment before Q or after Q?
Post Q.
Pardon.
What was that?
After Q, post.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to state for the record, I hope people are here to listen objectively. This committee that was put together on December 7th has spent a bazillion hours trying to gather every piece of information that we could possibly gather, and it will be presented in the PowerPoint today. And I would encourage you to write down your questions. If that PowerPoint doesn't answer your questions, then we can respond to them better after the public input session.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So we have a motion in a second. Do we, if I remember correctly? Okay, we have a motion in a second to have public comment after tab Q. We've had discussion. Anybody, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we will do that as well. Okay, let's go back to our original agenda now with two modifications, two amendments. We have a motion and a second. We've had some excellent discussion. All those in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Looking for approval of our minutes from our regular meeting on February 15th.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the approval of the minutes from February 15th? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will abstain. I was not here, although I did listen into almost all of it. Excellent meeting. Thank you, Interim Chairman Lloyd, for the great work you did. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have minutes from our February 17th intergovernmental special meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second those. And if I could comment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Commissioner Toman.
All I would say is, again, I would ask the public, we're hearing a lot of chatter about they don't approve of what we're doing and people aren't presenting projects. Please listen carefully. Projects were presented and another meeting will be held to accept other additional projects before we ever think about going forth with another proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
one other
Commissioner.
comment, just to put this on the record, I will be abstaining. I did obtain, I was on the road during this meeting and I did participate and listen to about 75% of the meeting, but as I was traveling about 14-mile road, I missed out on about 15 minutes of the meeting because of lack of coverage. So because of that, I will abstain because I wasn't at the full meeting.
Thank you. And you got the best part of the meeting anyway, so you're good. I would also comment that meeting was really a starting point for the public to just roll out some ideas. Nothing was really fleshed out that greatly, but just some ideas so we knew what kind of ballpark we were in. But we'll certainly have more meetings and more information will be disseminated. But as far as these minutes go, we have a motion, a second. Thank you for the discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Was that an aye, Roy? You said you're going to abstain.
Aye, sorry.
So Roy's abstaining.
This
Okay.
is unusual. I've
It is,
quieted
yeah.
down, so.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Our bills are a little bit different this time around. So looking for approval of the EALs, the bonds, the consideration of reimbursement for the legal fees for the Southland bankruptcy and the abates and rebates. What is your
Mr.
pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I wonder, this is something we looked at last meeting also while you were gone, and I wonder if, one of the things we moved from last meeting to this meeting was our treasurer, Joe Barbudo's consideration of reimbursement of legal fees related to Southland bankruptcy. I wonder if we wanted to make sure that kind of went into public record and was on the agenda. I wonder if we should get information on that before we either approve the approval of EALs, the bonds and the abates, and then maybe do the consideration of reimbursement differently so we can hear from Mr. Barbudo regarding that.
Let's do that. So I will, go ahead.
So I'll just make a motion to approve the county vouchers and warrants, county approval of bonds, and the approval of abates and rebates as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of acceptance of those bills presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Barbudo, would you come and re-enlighten us? Appreciate your efforts last time. You and I had discussed some things and thought it was going to go a certain way, and I apologize. I wasn't here to have them go that certain way. So here we are again.
No, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, that's fine. So we're about this close to closing the chapter on Southland.
Is that
As-
chapter 11?
No. Entirely different chapter, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just checking.
That was good.
So the question came up prior to the last county commissioner meetings about the reimbursement of legal fees associated with this case. And Wyoming statutes 3913-111, section A, Roman I does allow that prior to any payment, the county and the payment of the taxes to the districts, the county may deduct and credit to the county treasury any extraordinary costs, including out-of-county court costs and associated attorney fees as certified by the Board of County Commissioners that the county incurred in order to collect any portion of the tax. And so certainly in the case of Southland, that was the case in the amount of $28,413 was expended to contract with outside lawyers, two different firms. And so if you would like to have that credited back to the county, we can certainly do that. And how I've arranged this in the abate section is that that amount is deducted right now. If you decide that you don't want to reimburse the county for those fees, then you'll have to remove those from the abates list.
It's in the abates? Oh, we already approved those.
Yeah, so I was wondering about the order of that myself, but
Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions about that if you have it. And we can go through this process again in a couple of weeks with the end of the Vanguard Grizzly, because there were some associated fees, legal fees with that as well. More substantial than in this case, though. So that will probably want a little more consideration from you about whether you reimburse those or in what amount, because it could end up a wash if we reimbursed ourselves for everything in that one. But the important thing is that we can, in this case, to get these dollars out to those tax districts included in that Southland case.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. De Leon, since we've already approved the abates and rebates and it's in there, do we need to, if we agree with that, what has been talked about, or we already?
No, your approval is appropriate. I think Mr. Barbudo is asking to receive a motion to certify the attorney's fees in the amount presented.
Okay, thank you. Then I will look for a motion to certify the attorney's fees in the amount presented.
Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to make that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick comment. I just want to let the public know, I know that $28,413 is a lot of money, but the amount of money that was won from that settlement was significantly more. If I remember right, John, can you give us, Mr. De Leon, can you give us a ballpark figure of what that settlement brought us?
want to say it was 15.1.
Yeah, so I do think a 28,413 legal fee on a gain of $15.1 million on a bankruptcy thing is a huge gain for the county. And I want to publicly thank John and Rob Slaughter for their initial work on that project, because without their work, we would not have, this county would have lost almost $15.1 million in that situation. And also I want to thank John, thank Treasurer Barbudo for his continued due diligence on this to make sure we get it done. So great work by some of those county folks to really protect the taxpayer dollar.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that. There was a time when we thought nothing was coming our way. So to come out with 15 million is great work on that part. Really appreciate it. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the certification, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry it took an extra couple weeks.
Thanks, Joe.
We have a public hearing for liquor license with our county clerk, Cindy Lane. Renewal of licenses. Come tell us a story.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I want to get my glasses out for this one. It's kind of tiny. Okay, I have before you the notice of applications to Sweetwater County for the renewal and new retail liquor licenses. Just to start out with, we do have 12 county retail liquor licenses that are given to us because we did lose 2 due to the census. They are distributed based on population. We have currently 11 and we have the 12th one being applied for. So we will be full here shortly. The ones renewing, as you can see in the packet, are AHJT Enterprises, doing business as White Mountain Mining Company, Buckboard Marina at Flaming Gorge as Buckboard Marina, Wes's LLC, doing business as Eden Saloon, the Hub LLC, DBA Mustang Travel Stop, Barley Mercantile LLC, doing business as the Point Bar, Laline A. Miller, doing business as Mitch's, Little America Hotels and Resorts, doing business as Little America, Joetta LLC, doing business as the Travel Camp, Fast Stop, doing business as Cruel Jacks, KR Distributing, doing business as Kelly's Hitching Post, and Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc., doing business as Love's Travel Stop. Those are our county retail liquor licenses that were renewed this year.
Can I ask you
Questions?
the 12th is? Or am I not allowed to do that? Have they
Well,
applied already?
They have applied already.
Okay.
It is, I'm not sure of their company name. They are actually purchasing one of these businesses on here, and the liquor license is not going with the business.
Oh,
So I'm not sure what business name they're under.
okay. Very good. Commissioners, then we have a presentation of the renewal of liquor licenses. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman. point-
Yes.
Does this have to have a public, be open for public hearing?
Yes.
Oh, it does.
sorry, it
Thank you.
does.
You do.
So I'm going to
Let's
run back
open
and
this.
make sure nobody's on the thing, and I'll come right back up.
Thank you. Anybody here in chambers like to make comments about the renewal of liquor licenses? I guess they're public. Public comment about the liquor licenses. Lost my gavel somewhere. I don't know. My drawer?
Try the other drawer. I put it in there.
Oh, you put it in my drawer. Oh. Hey, look at that.
Sorry.
Just bring it with me so I can see.
My name tag too. Look at that.
Oh.
All right.
All right, I have no public comment on email.
All right. We will, anybody here? No? Okay. Close public comment. Now, commissioners, what is your pleasure regarding the renewal of liquor licenses as presented? Any pleasure, commissioners,
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion.
to approve? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I believe the chairman has to sign also.
And would you allow the chairman to sign in your motion
Yes.
and your second as well?
Absolutely. I thought that's what was said.
That sounded like it. I was just making sure. Any other discussion?
Thought we were going to become a dry county there for a minute.
Oh,
Super popular.
don't put that
yeah.
on me.
All right, let's not do that.
Oh.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the renewal, then please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next. So we have 4 different sections.
Let's
We
do
usually
it.
do one at a time. Okay, the next I have before you is the county restaurant liquor licenses. And we have one, and that is Purple Sage Ventures LLC, doing business as The Log Inn. This too will need the chairman's signature and open for public comment.
All right, any questions for Ms. Lane before public comment? Okay, we'll open up for public comment. Anybody in house like to comment? Do you need to double check back in the back?
No, I brought it up,
Oh, you
so
brought
I
it
don't
up.
have to.
What a good worker.
I know. Sometimes I do work smarter than others.
Better than me. Any comments? Okay, public comment is closed. Commissioners, what's your pleasure with the restaurant liquor license?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'll make a motion. We approve the applicants for the county restaurant liquor license
thank you, Commissioner Wendling. We have
and
a motion.
authorize the chairman to sign.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thought you'd like that.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second discussion on this topic, the restaurant liquor license. No discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay,
Malt
our third one is the county retail malt beverage permits. These are unlimited when people apply for them, so we don't have a cap on those. The first is Roger Varley, doing business as Point. Oh, hold on.
Merc.
Point Merc. I had to put my glasses on. Sorry, I forgot about that. Mustang Travel Stop LLC, doing business as Mustang Travel Stop. Eaton Investments, Inc., doing business as the Farson Feed Store. Little America Corporation, doing business as Little America. And Crossroads Travel Plaza LLC, doing business as Crossroads Travel Plaza.
Thank you. Any questions? Excellent. Public comment period is open for our 5 county retail malt beverage permits. Any comments here?
I have a question. Does that include wine?
I think it's just beer. Might be
Malt beverage
It's
permit.
malt. Yeah, I believe
just
that's
beer.
just beer, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know. This happens
Right.
once a year. I don't think, I can find that out for
I
you.
always ask you these.
I know you always ask me about it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I do come more prepared now though with
I
your,
didn't want to put you on the spot. I just was curious.
Excellent. We'll close public comment then, including comment from Commissioner Tillman. You're closed. What's your pleasure on the 5 county retail malt beverage permits, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move to approve the 5 presented county retail malt beverage permits and to allow the chairman to sign.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
okay, and our final one is the county limited, make sure it's the final one, retail liquor license. We have one applicant, and that is the Rolling Green Country Club Incorporated, doing business as Rolling Green Country Club.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lane?
Well, may I ask, what is a limited license? Sorry.
I believe that they can only do that at their country club. And I think this is one of the new legislator the bills that are coming before legislation, the airports and the country clubs, they don't take away from our county liquor licenses in case we want
Oh.
to something at the airport.
Okay.
So it's limited.
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know either. Okay, we'll open up for
Ask
public
every year, I
comments.
don't know.
Public comments on the county limited retail liquor license request for Rolling Green Country Club. Any comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. What is your pleasure, my fellow commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make motion that we approve the application for the county limited retail liquor license through Rolling Green Country Club, doing business as Rolling Green Country Club, and authorized chairman to sign.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd hate to see Doc have to golf with no refreshments.
You better golf for with. You better golf for with or without, Doc.
Everybody hates see me golf, Commissioner.
Just flat out beer or no beer. It's not okay. We'll have to go do that sometime. Any other discussion? Excellent. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Oh,
Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Okay.
Appreciate the help there. On to county resident concerns, comments, or I always like to add in compliments. If you have compliments, those are okay too. Just saying. County resident concerns, comments, compliments. Nobody? Anybody online? Okay. Thank you. Then we will move on to our action items, tab D. Mr. McLean and Ms. Lane reclassifying the clerk's commission support position, which is a position is near and dear to our heart. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. I would respectfully request that we address this issue at the next meeting. Ms. Lane and I met just briefly yesterday and have not resolved some of the issues associated with those two items. Closer, but we still have a little more work to do. I think it's important to get it right.
Ms. Lane, what's your desire there?
The only issue I have with this subject is that I met with Mr. McLean on February 1st to begin the discussions on that and talk about it. And we've had several meetings since that time. And I added it to the agenda since I was asked to bring that back this meeting. I wanted to make sure that you knew I was working on that and that I expected it to be done by this meeting. It has not been. So I just wanted you to note that.
Thank you. So is this a discussion and a negotiation of some kind, or is this just fulfilling a request of yours? What is this?
No, I went through the point system of the county to make sure I thought that the job was within what I needed to be for what I am expecting from this position. And it would be at the same, if it's not even higher than the highest person that they would be supervising. So I expect the position to reflect what I'm asking for it to, for this person to do in my stead.
Thank you. Mr. McLean, is there dispute with that? Is there?
I think, as you know, Mr. Chairman, the process of evaluating positions involves assessing job tasks along the lines of 11 separate factors. And in this particular case, we're sort of creating some new roles and trying to determine how those roles would be evaluated under those 11 factors. I think as of the meeting yesterday, I think much closer, and I think we have some ideas how to get those addressed. So trying to bring together, I think Ms. Lane's understanding of what she sees for the job going forth and making it fit within the compensation structure of the county.
So nothing to vote on today, no action to take. Is that correct?
I just don't believe we're prepared to address that.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Clerk Lane, do you believe the stuff you put together was ready to be presented to us?
I do. But my hands are tied because it comes through with all of the insurances and stuff. It comes through the HR department. So I am at the point where I have to wait for the paperwork to present to you.
How long have we been waiting?
Well, my first meeting, I actually talked about it last year and we did come to some conclusion. And then I realized that I needed more, as I discussed prior. When I took office, we no longer had the chief deputy positions, and I kind of have been waiting to see what does this office need. before I made such a decision. And I do now know what I need to have in my office to keep it running smoothly when I am not here. Even when I am here, to be able to delegate some duties that need to be taken care of. We know it's an election year, it's a redistricting year. I have nobody to rely on to take care of those things for me. And that could be, keep the office not running smoothly. So I did bring it up again, like I said, February 1st, and thought that would be plenty of time to have it by the February 15th meeting, but then we asked to have it moved to this meeting. And so it just keeps getting further along, and I really need to get this position into place and get it set up and get the person trained.
Thank you.
So be training.
Mr. McLean,
Yeah, thank you.
do you believe we can have this stuff by the next meeting?
Absolutely. I think we made
Okay.
good progress yesterday.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that we postpone this agenda item till the next meeting, and everything is presented on time. I believe we've been waiting for this, and we've waited long enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any objections to that? Okay, then we will look forward to this in our next meeting 2 weeks from now. And we have our same dynamic duo up to visit about request to restaff an accounting lead.
Do we have to vote to postpone?
Mr. Chairman, essentially, we've got the same issue with this next one. I think the concern that was brought up at last meeting, which was the first time that this had been addressed, was about the separation between these positions being two grades. I had a chance to look into that. We talked a little bit this morning and yesterday on that. And so again, I respectfully request that we address this at the next meeting so we can get these finalized in the appropriate manner.
Thank you, Ms. Lane.
All right, again, so at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Shanefield asked me to look into moving the accounting counting three up, because my leads are 2 grades above the people that they lead. And for some reason, this was already in place when I took office, the accounting department is only 1, and I would like to bring that into a line and be consistent. I don't know what historically happened, but now that I'm in office, I'd like it to be the same and consistent, that my leads are 2 above. Commissioner Shanefield did mention that and asked me to bring that this meeting. So I was, and to correct the insurance information that was on that form. So I was bringing it, but I don't have that information right now.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
Was that the only issue, was the insurance for this position?
And moving it up from a 19 to a 20 grade.
That's all there was
Mhm.
just that boom, boom.
Yes.
And we have those grades and stuff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of order. I think what will end up happening here is most likely a motion to postpone, but I think I just want to confirm with Attorney De Leon that we may have to go back to tab D and make a formal motion to postpone what we did into the next meeting and vote that through. Am I correct, Mr. De Leon?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, you can make a motion to postpone, which would be a little bit more formal in terms of saying that it would take place at the next meeting. You certainly don't always, I wouldn't describe it as always necessary, as it's understood, but I think it is the normal way when you're putting it on a specific date. It would be a motion to postpone, as Commissioner Lloyd identified.
Mr. Chairman
Yes.
and Commissioner Lloyd and Mr. De Leon, I do believe that was the intent. It just didn't happen. I do think by postponing it, and it becomes very clear that it will occur at the next meeting and becomes public record, so there's no excuses. And we get it done so we can get our employees taken care of, please. So Mr. Commissioner Lloyd or Mr. Chairman, whenever you're ready, we can go back, or we can do.
Let's
a
do both
postpone.
together.
Both together?
Sure. I think that would be very easy. I will entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion that we postpone tab D, I believe,
D and E.
D and E, till the next meeting.
I would second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, I do have a question. Would these changes take effect July 1st with the new budget or immediately?
The accounting would take place in May when the person takes that position. And then the other one, I need to start immediately as well. Just because with elections and everything going on, it's ramping up.
That, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Toman, that will come forward to, with Mr. McLean's recommendation at the next meeting, along with Ms. Lane, Clerk Lane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion second. Any other further discussion? Microphone. I know I moved it closer because I was leaning back. Now I'm sitting forward again. I don't know. Chew it all up. All those in favor of postponing these, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We will visit the next meeting about this. Tab F, request approval to hire a full-time equipment operator in the Road and Bridge Department with Mr. McLean and Mr. Legursky.
Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, before you is a request to restaff a vacancy. This was a vacancy that resulted from the voluntary separation program. We're requesting to begin recruitment and eventually restaffing of the equipment operator. The cost summaries provided and for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Looks like no differences at all. I was going to say no significant differences in salary, but it looks like no differences at all. So questions for Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify on the sheet, obviously the restaffing is estimated at the grade 15.5, but actually it's a significant reduction from the vacancy, the person that left the position. So I want to clear that he was much higher.
I do recall that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very true. Questions? Gene, did you have something? You stood up, so that looks serious.
Well, I'll bang the same drum that I always do up here. I actually have real data that John Radosevich and I worked very hard at back in 2009. The total actual payroll for Road and Bridge was 2.7 million. Currently, right now, it's 1.9 million. It's a difference of $837,984. So I think we're in the right direction, but we do have more roads. We do need blade operators.
Nice. We appreciate that great work. Thank you.
Mr. Legursky. Within that 800 and some $1,000, how many employees was that?
12, 13.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe in the packet, it said that we had originally had 235. I think it should have been 300 10 years ago, and now it was 200 and some. So in the packet, I believe there's an error in that number.
Ms. Tolman, that's correct. The number was about 325 in 2010-11, and we're 243 or so right now. So
Thank you. Any other discussion? I forgot. Did we already have motion? No motion. I would look for a motion then.
Mr.
To
Chairman,
approve. Yes.
I would make that motion. And do you have to sign? Does he have to
I
sign?
do.
He doesn't have to sign.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, I make a motion to hire the full-time equipment operator in Road and Bridge and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ooh, that was
Roy.
tight. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of restaffing, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Tab G, discussion of a new sign for Inside Connections at 731B C Street with Mr. Legursky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome back.
Welcome again. As you know, Insight Connections is moving into the old attorney's building up on C Street. They would actually like to advertise their business. But because it is a big sign, it's 16 foot by 2, it'll be put on the wrought iron fence out front so everybody can see it from C Street. I felt it appropriate to bring it in front of you guys because it is the county's building still. It was the county's grounds. Want to make sure you guys are okay with that. And just so you guys know, they still have to go through a city sign permit application in that process. And as part of this motion, if you would allow me to just sign that application for them, they will be the applicant. We can do that when they get it done, or if you guys want to sign it, doesn't matter. But that still has to be done.
Thank you. It's I mean, it's a nice design they have. I don't know if it's appropriate or falls in the line. We don't have anything else out there, do we?
We don't have any signs up there.
So that would be a little different. Questions for Mr. Legursky? Okay. Well, no, I will look for your pleasure then, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wendling.
make motion that we approve the hanging of the sign for Insight Connections
And
as presented.
we'll
Is
allow
that-
Jean,
that which, huh?
will we allow Jean to sign?
Pardon?
Will we allow Jean to sign?
Yes, yes, and allow Gene to sign
Perfect. Thank
all
you.
necessary documents.
All right. Less for us to do. I like it. Got a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any other discussions? I would just say that I'm glad the city has a process and it'll go through that. So it'll conform with whatever the regulations are. So with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And on to tab H, still Mr. Legursky with our Brown Bag Series concert and at the County Health and Human Services Building. Mr. Legursky.
As you guys know, the city of Rock Springs has been doing a First Security Bank building for a couple of years now. And because of the construction and the construction yard that is in the bank court, they have not been able to have their Brown Bag concert series there. 2 years ago, this will be the 3rd year, they moved it over to the HHS east side, the grass area there on the east side, between there and B Street. No, C Street, sorry. Wrong way. Anyway, they would like to continue to have that concert. It's very well done. They organize it with us really well. They pick up their stuff. They work around our mowing schedule and all that. So it's a good win-win for everybody, and it brings stuff into downtown Rock Springs.
So is it in the grassy area there
Yep.
towards?
You're facing the front of the building on the right side, the east side of that building.
All right, good. What's your pleasure, commissioners, or any questions for Mr. Legursky first?
Mr. Legursky, just to kind of double check, just the same location it's been in the last couple of years, no
Correct.
major changes
Nope.
or anything?
Any other questions?
Mr. Legursky, we're only approving that they be allowed to have the series on our property, not approving the series itself, are we?
No, because I know there is some people that play, namely our treasurer, that a lot of people like, and some other ones that they don't like. So we're not approving the concert series at all. We're just approving the fact that
All
they
right.
have it there.
All right, thank you.
No endorsements.
We thought you were the
Applied
booking agent
or
of the
attended.
bands. Commissioner.
That's good.
No endorsement.
You
of the
can't make
series.
that up, Gene.
No,
Yeah, that's good job. Go and choose for yourself, right?
yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion that we approve the MOU with the city for having the concert series on the property of the HHS building and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Wendling that he loves the series and endorses all of, no, that's not what he said.
There you go.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank, I'm glad we're able to do this, and I know it's the Downtown Association of Rock Springs, URA under Chad Banks that puts this together. And it's a great partnership that brings great stuff to the community, and I've been to those concerts. I didn't know Doc was the booking agent for him, but just joking, but knowing, I do think it's a great thing for our citizens, and it's a great partnership that we have to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We have a motion second. All those in favor of the approval of the Brown Bag Concert Series using the property, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that, Gene. Tab I. Nomination for appointment of Homeland Security Coordinator. We have Sheriff Grossnickel here with us. Haven't seen you since last week.
Morning, Mr. Chairman,
Good
Commissioners.
morning.
This is to appoint Emily Covey as our emergency management facilitator at the Sheriff's Office. As you know, we did cut one position after we evaluated it. We didn't deem it necessary to have the two positions. With that, we have done some restructuring, if you will, that the sheriff will be the point of contact if there is an incident. Working with our positive relationships that we have with everybody, being able to funnel all the administrative work through emergency management. And then the sheriff would have the resources available throughout all of our county partners and government partners too, if we had to call in the state or even the federal government and be able to put those resources in play depending on what the incident is.
Thank you. Questions for Sheriff Grossnickel?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sheriff Grossnickel, thank you for the presentation, the information, and just so I know that this is a change in how we've done it in the past. It seems I just want to so just to make sure I understand, the sheriff will kind of take the quarterback offensive coordinator type role in this situation and help coordinate using our other resources. Correct,
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lloyd, that's correct. An example that I've given is if we have some kind of hazardous spill within the community, surely you don't want us in law enforcement dealing with that. We'd call in the regional response team. Again, we have good working relationships with them, and they would be the incident commander. We would even have maybe a unified command. Again, filtering everything back into the sheriff's office, into emergency management, so the administrative aspect is taken care of.
okay. And you feel comfortable taking on these additional roles, and if you're unavailable, that your team can definitely help man and take care of this in a positive way.
Absolutely. We all know that I'm not the smartest person. That's why I have smarter people around me. So I'm very confident and we can do that and take it in a positive direction. We learned a lot from the pandemic and things that we could correct and change.
I'd agree. Well, thank you, John. I feel very comfortable with what you're presenting and want to thank you for looking at some change in direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Sheriff. First of all, I have to accept responsibility for not being able to touch base with you, being gone last week. I didn't think this would come up so quickly. I do appreciate the fact that when you say from the last experience, we've learned some things and are working towards correcting them and that type of thing. I like Commissioner Lloyd's example of the quarterback taking it, because that tells me we're probably not taking the shotgun and reloading it the same way we have always done. We're looking at different ways to provide those services and that type of thing. And through the last pandemic, we had many conversations, and I'm glad Lieutenant Tomich is here and some of your staff. And I think we all know what those conversations were and where we need to move better in a direction and that type of thing. So my biggest question is with certainty, I hope we never have to do what we had to do 2 years ago, first of all, but with certainty, do you feel that this is different enough that it'll take care of if something that large needs to come together, this will be able to handle it, this model that you're presenting?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wendling, I absolutely believe that. Being here in the county in the sheriff's office for 26 years, there's more of a hands-off approach from the sheriff who had emergency management underneath them. And I believe that there needs to be more input from the sheriff, more ownership to delegate those resources and where they need to go to streamline it and make it more efficient.
Okay, and there will be that ability to use our local expertise, whether it's Rock Springs Fire, ambulance, all across the board, county fire and that type of thing, those types of leaderships. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Wendland, absolutely. We'll go back to the football analogy. You have a whole team there, and certainly you don't want your offensive lineman kicking an extra point. So we have to put those pieces in place so we can get through any kind of incident that'll happen.
Right. Well, I'm glad it's different. I just hope it's different enough to where we can handle the situations. I know we've handled the flooding out in Granger and that area really well in the past with support of our departments, whether it's road and bridge, whether it's fire, along with law enforcement. The other aspect too is whether you liked it or not, we had the mini one here when we had the call of a possible shooter. You know, that was handled superbly. Although I think when you get ready for your review, you'll find things we need to do better, I'm sure. But anyhow, but thank you for having your staff here. Thanks for sharing that model of what it'll look like. And I'm sorry if I took guys away from work, but I just, because I was gone and I know you want to get rolling on this. I just had some questions, but they've been answered. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Then what is your pleasure on the nomination of?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask one more question? I apologize.
sure.
See, now I'm kind of back to normal. So now we're rolling.
You're getting in the
No
groove.
more mousiness going on back
Getting
here,
in the
but
groove. Good job.
Sheriff Grossnickel, I guess my question is I think one of the key components to making this model work is being able to have a solid working relationships across the board. Because I think something Doc was, Commissioner Wendling was talking about was we have a plethora of people throughout this county, within the cities, within the municipalities and other organizations that have lots of talent. And I think to make this model work, we'll be dipping into those talents to make it work. And you feel you have good working relationships across the board to make those work and make this a successful situation.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lloyd, I absolutely do. We saw the community come together when we had the flash flood this past summer also. Not only government entities, but our local partners that are in the private sector also were bringing pumps out and things of that nature. So with those positive relationships, we'd be able to get through those. Yes.
Thank you. That's my last question. I promise.
I have one.
Mhm.
I just want to commend the sheriff as an elected official. We've all been asked to step up and make hard decisions. And I know you've made some reorganization within your department to save money, but to also increase efficiencies. And I wonder if you could talk about, just some of the things you've done.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Toman, when I was elected office, we reorganized the sheriff's office completely with getting rid of some positions to save money. We just recently did that in the most recent voluntary separation, and we've reorganized the detention center to make it more efficient. But again, to save the county money where we thought that there's a little fat to trim. Like I've said in the past, we went from a ribeye and we're down to a round steak now. So, but if there's any more that we can see that we could do to benefit the county and still maintain our services, we will certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then I will entertain a motion to approve Mrs. Emily Martinez-Covey for the appointment of the position of Sweetwater County Emergency Manager and Homeland Security Coordinator.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I would make that motion
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
and to have the chairman sign all necessary documents.
Perfect. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Sheriff. Appreciate your time. On to tab J, a modification request to county data storage purchase from Mr. Tim Knight. Hello, Tim. Welcome aboard the good
It's been a
ship.
while.
All right,
County
good
Commissioners.
morning, Commissioners. Thanks for the time today. To start out with, back in September, we had a discussion about storage and I told you all these wonderful things that were going to happen. And it didn't happen the way that we were told it was going to happen. So,
So kind of like life.
it happens sometimes. So what they found, or what we found, is that a lot of the files we have in our system are already compressed. So PDFs and video files are already compressed. And so these 4-to-1 ratios that we were talking about maybe getting didn't happen at all. As a matter of fact, we didn't even get 2, and they were very surprised by that. I was very surprised by that. I tried to talk to them about fixing the situation because I felt like they owed us something. They came back with a proposal, which is option 1 of giving us additional disk spaces for an 87% discount at $92,000, which I thought was ridiculous. So I went to Dell to talk about doing it a different way. So what we talked about doing is taking the data that's surveillance type data, archival type data, disaster recovery type data, this stuff that's not in production, and moving it to a cheaper storage solution. What we've decided to do is add 2 Dell Power Vaults to our storage solution for $40,000. And what that does for us, actually, I think in the long run, it's going to be a better solution for us because it helps us do that. I'm not really asking for a budget amendment or anything because we did save quite a bit in the initial purchase. There's plenty of money to get this done with what we did. But I felt from a transparency perspective that I had at least ought to come talk to you and tell you that what I told you wasn't exactly right, and that we wanted to fix it. We have a solution to fix it, and it's going to, in the long run, probably be a good solution for us. We can add disk space to this for storage and things that we have to keep that doesn't have to be on a flash storage solution. So I can entertain any questions. I don't know if we actually need a motion on this. I just wanted to update you and let you know what happened.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Knight?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Brennan.
not a question, more of a statement. I just appreciate him coming forward and I guess correcting the route and letting us know. I agree with you very much. When it's that kind of money, being transparent is very, very smart. And we appreciate you doing that, even though you wouldn't have had to. So thank you. But right move, right solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Yes, thank you very much. From your favorite customer.
Sorry.
Excellent. Then with no action needed, thanks for the update and
Okay.
best of luck.
Thank you.
And we continue to support you in your efforts to keep us safe and well stored.
Okay, great.
Tab K, back for more with the update on the museum network connectivity project.
All right. So if you remember last spring, we came and talked about connecting the museum to the county via fiber. The idea was to try to help create a more reliable network connection for them to be able to help them have services that they needed. And so what we've been able to do is I thought I came back to report on what we've done, some of the money we've saved, and then talk a little bit about our investigation into bringing them in as a department of the county. So when we brought them in, what we've been able to do is give them a reliable high-speed internet connection. Prior to our connection, they were rebooting their router 2 or 3 times a day. And so they were looking at maybe buying a different internet solution at that point. We've given them a much more secure network. Now they're behind multiple firewalls. They have an email security gateway. And so they're less vulnerable to the attacks that were out there. They had a a phone system that was a little bit older, and now they're on the county phone system. We've moved their number over to our network. And so that's worked really, really well for them. Their security camera system was actually broken. They had cameras that were laying around that were not showing any images, and the recorder itself was kind of in a pile. So we've been able to add them to our security camera system at a much more reduced cost. We've been able to take their collections database, which was on a PC that was being backed up onto a little external hard drive, to now a server system that's networked. Multiple people can get to it. They now will have the ability to digitize their collections and make those publicly available in a much more secure way than what they would have had to do prior to that. We've spent about $40,000 to make that happen, which I think was a really good investment for what we've been able to get for that. The cost that they would have had to spend, if they would have had to replace their camera system, they would have spent just under $10,000. The server to host their collections would have been over $3,000. In order to add a new internet connection at least $125 a month, at $1,300 a year. We've improved their firewall. If they were to have to buy a firewall like that, it would have cost them $5,000 to $10,000 to do that. And so we've also given them PC endpoint protection at a much higher level, which has saved them quite a bit. So I think it's a wash financially. Plus, they're spending about $3,300 less per year on phones than they were before. So this will pay for itself, and it's been a really good. I think it's been a good investment. And one of the things that I wanted to maybe get your opinion on is there are other component units out there that don't have IT support. And I'd like to explore, with your permission, the option of providing IT as a service to component units. I'd have to look at what that would cost and what we would charge, but then we would charge those component units for those services. My concern is that the internet is a scary place right now, and these people can't afford to have those things. We support them a lot financially, and maybe we can also do that as a service. It may mean we have to add some staff, and so I think we have to do it intelligently, but I do want to kind of look at that as an option. So
Very good. I think better quality, less money in the museum. Great. Nice job. And supporting others with, services that may also benefit us, I think is a good idea to explore as well. Commissioners, so your comments, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Whitman.
Mr. Knight,
Yeah.
let's go back to a word I heard, or what you said early in your conversation. You said adding them as a department. the museum.
yes, we need to have that conversation too. That's still,
When you say a department like IT, fire,
well, okay, so let's have that conversation then, since that's where we're going. We've met, so Bonnie, John, me and Dave met and spent a couple hours kind of hashing through the statutes legally. What does this mean to bring them into the county as a department? And then also what it looks like to bring us into the financial system. So there are a few statutes related to how museums get formed and how they're governed, which require that there needs to be a museum board if there's a museum, in essence. And the museum board actually is responsible for hiring the employees of the museum.
exactly.
Okay, so there's a little bit of gray area as to whether it makes sense for us as a county to go ahead and how do we want to manage that? Do we want to manage that board? And I think even though there is an example of a county who has made the museum a department, and then there is still a board. Our feeling right now is that the savings that we would get from that are so minuscule, like we're talking $700 a year, that it may not be worth the effort to try to bring them over to the county at this time. I think if things change, maybe that might make sense, but I think right now it may not make sense.
Yeah, I think this is the first I heard about it.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And I think as we move forward, and if we're going to talk about, I'm just speaking for myself.
Sure.
I'm not speaking for the commission as a whole, just myself as a commissioner. I would like to be involved in those conversations as to
Sure.
directing our people to, like you just said, hey, with our permission, you want to talk to the component units regarding technology. I think bringing, I think there's more out there than the museum
Mhm.
that we need to have the conversation for department,
Mhm.
but we need to have those conversations as a commission, attorney, and what we're thinking
Sure.
first before we go out and do a lot of investigating and make sure all of us are on the same page and that type of thing and know what's going on. So if we get hit with a question,
Sure.
it will come back and say, oh, we're talking about department. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyhow, but yeah, I always felt we need to investigate some of our component units and see if we need to bring them in as a department and even and that type of thing. But that's me personally. I want to make sure our other four commissioners
Okay.
are on the same page. It may not be. And if they're not, then majority's not, then we don't waste our time.
Okay.
But anyhow, I agree with what
Mhm.
took place. I'm it's just good conversation, but I'd like to in the future see those things run by.
Mhm.
And even as much as I'm in favor of the component units for investigating technology, I think we need to make sure that we as a board say, yes, these are the units we want you to talk to,
Mhm.
because there might be some outside agencies out there that think they're a component unit, and we want to keep them away from that,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. And I apologize if I stepped out of turn. I felt like with the last discussion we had with giving them to fiber, that that was one of the things that you were interested in, is having that conversation.
And,
So,
and I'm glad you did, because
Yeah.
I didn't step on on my toes,
okay.
but I just like to say in the future, let's make sure that's part of the conversation as we move forward.
Sure.
And so primarily, like somebody said, the buck stops here.
Mhm.
So if you get questioned about it, you can say the board authorized and period. Then it buck stops here.
Okay.
And I like the buck stopping here because that's what I got elected for. That's just my opinion. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Yes.
not to refute anything that Commissioner Wendling is saying, I felt that what you have done is to provide information to us and that you have come to us. So I don't feel that you've stepped out of, I don't feel that he stepped out of order because he hasn't gone to the component units. He met with the lawyers, he met with the people that were affected, and then he came to us. So without the information, it's hard for us to make a decision. So I appreciate that you've done the groundwork.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. I think I agree that I understand where we're going with both sides there. So I think you have good direction of
Okay.
making sure that we're informed before we move ahead. You felt like you had that this time. So no hard feelings, I think, but just direction for the future. Is that true? Commissioner Wendling?
True.
Commissioner Tillman?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, thanks.
Very good. Thank you. We are scheduled for a break now. I wouldn't mind continuing on with the next couple of items. Looks like they shouldn't be too terribly long. Is that okay with commissioners, or would we like a break now?
Oh, go on.
Move forward. Okay.
I think.
Thank you, Tim. Tab L, the Combined Communications Joint Powers Board appointments. It's thinking. Okay. Eligible for reappointment, we have Jim Walmsley, whose term expired last year. Alexander Visser, whose term expires this year. And then we have new applicants of Joan Savage and Teodoro Trejo. We have the letters and applications there. What discussion do you have?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I currently sit as the liaison. And I know after our discussion about liaisons a little bit later, that may be null and void, but I'd just like, if it's okay, I'd like to make a recommendation. I did have some conversations with Attorney De Leon about this and for various reasons and did look into it, but I would be comfortable with reappointing Jim Walmsley and Alexander Visser to the board.
Very good. Is that a motion? You just a discussion right now?
They would have to be two different motions, John. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my first motion, yeah, I would want to hear what everyone else has to say if there's any other points of view, but that just as the person on that board, I'd be willing to make those concepts.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman, any thoughts there?
No, I defer to Mr. Lloyd, Commissioner Lloyd.
Commissioner Wendling?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I struggle with it, the reappointment, and it's no offense to individuals. It's more along looking at it when it comes time to make a decision and that type of thing. Both present appointees work for the city of Rock Springs. So if you do the math, there's 5 Rock Springs people on that communication board and 1 county. And that's our sheriff. Now, granted, I've historically, the record has shown that, you know, they've done the right things, but as we move forward with that contract and that, I just, you know, I got to look out for what's best for the county, not for what's best for City of Rock Springs or the City of Green River, even though they're in our county. But when it comes to appointing board members, I think we need to look out for what's best for our county. So I'm just going to say that as gee, you can't find 2 better people than Walmsley and Visser, but we do have 2 good appointments, 2 people that want to serve there. And they would represent the county and not either of the cities and that type of thing. So I'm, you know, sometimes doing the right thing is hard to do. And I think the right thing is it's time to move to where we take care of the county versus the county not being in a position to suggest to board members what's best for the county that we as commissioners want done. So I'm going to support that we reappoint the 2 new members, Joan Savage and Theodore Trujillo.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. My only comment there would be I'll take our 1 sheriff over 5 city people anytime. So that's
Well, that's the way it's been. It's been 1 sheriff over 5 city all the
the
time.
battle.
I agree with you, but at the same time, I think he needs a little help maybe once in a while.
Absolutely.
So I just hope everybody understands. I have no qualms.
No, that's a point well taken, and I appreciate the point of view.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I've wrestled with this same discussion over the last couple of weeks and have actually personally reached out to Chief Walmsley and Alexander Visser and had multiple conversations. And I think one thing I could do better as the liaison to that board is actually make sure I'm communicating with them better and having discussions with them. And I'll be honest, I knew Chief Walmsley was our appointment and I knew Sheriff Grossnickel was our appointment. I didn't know Alexander Visser was our appointment, and a lot of times Mr. Visser takes the meetings by phone call our Zoom or phone call option, which a lot of the members of that committee have. And so I really hadn't even had many conversations with Mr. Visser, but I do feel comfortable in that they would represent us and discuss this. And if I'm not mistaken, John, Sheriff Grosnickle, and just by shake of head, do we have other representatives from the county that have been appointed by other entities on that board? Okay, I wasn't sure, but that was a question I wanted to ask. So I see where Chairman Wendling's done, but I also feel that Chief Walmsley is a universally knowledgeable guy in a lot of areas and has been very positive in that area. So that's just my opinion. So
Thank you. Then what is your pleasure, my fellow commissioners, with these appointments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd move that we appoint Jim Walmsley to the Joint Communications Board.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Hearing no second, that motion dies for lack of a second. What's your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion. We appoint Joan Savage to the position at the Joint Communications Board.
We have a motion to appoint Joan Savage. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to put on the record, I will be voting no. It's nothing about against Joan Savage. I think she'd be a great candidate. I just think we're losing a plethora of knowledge of information by having Chief Walmsley not on that board. But I do think it is Joan Savage will do a good job on that board.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Then all those in favor of appointing Joan Savage to the Combined Communications Joint Powers Board, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. It passes. We have another appointment. Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Mr.
One.
Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion. We appoint Alexander Visser to the other position on the Joint Communications Board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Will you repeat that motion?
A motion
that
to
up?
appoint Alexander Visser. I'm sorry. It shouldn't have been that. I read the term expires. I would make a motion. I'll withdraw my motion on Alexander Visser.
Okay, then what is your pleasure, commissioners?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Theodore Trail to the Joint Communications Board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of order. I was just clarifying which individual is appointed to which position.
Thank you. So, well, where would you like Theodore to go? And then that will
Let's
answer our
have-
question for the other one.
Theodore to point to the position that expires 3/8/22. And, or I'm sorry, and runs through 3/8/25.
Thank you. So the 3-year there. Okay.
Yep. And then the Joan Savage would be the other one that expires 3/8/24.
So we have a motion for Theodore Trejo to fill the position of Alexander Visser, which expires on March 8th of 2022. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to discussion. No discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Do we need to do anything then, John, with the first one, or is it assumed now that Joan will take the term that expires in 24? Or do we need to?
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be good to include a motion. with
Okay, can we ratify, amend, or hold new motion?
You can amend
Okay.
that motion.
Then I would entertain a amended motion that Joan Savage fill the appointment of Jim Walmsley, which is expired and runs through March 8th of 2024.
So moved.
Thank you. And the second?
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification there, keeping us on the straight and narrow path. It's a good point. Didn't really notice that they're a year apart, so that's good. How about now? Should we take a break now? Want one more?
Whatever you wanna.
I'm asking you guys. Do you want one more?
Do one more.
Break. One more then?
Yeah, that won't take long. That's in your court.
That is in my court. Representatives, discussion on representatives for the county departments and elected officials here. So we discussed, and it was the feeling of this board to move forward with the disillusionment of the dissolvement of the liaison program. But it was also pointed out that our county officials would like to have a point of contact to be able to bring things to the board on a regular basis. So discussion on that at all? I think we've moved forward with the liaison. I've talked with all of my groups that I represent as a liaison and let them know that any one of us may be attending at any time. So I attended a couple of board meetings this past week, and we'll continue to do so, but everybody is welcome there. For the elected officials, for the county departments and elected officials, would you like to have a more formal process?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Wendling.
Do the elected officials need a point of contact?
Never had one.
This will be the first time.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'll interject if you don't mind. I was going to wait to the end, but I'll interject my thought here is that we do have somebody appointed, or not appointed, but assigned, and perhaps rotate through the department heads. If the elected officials had any issues, I would hope they'd come to the chair, whoever that may be at the time, if they have anything that needs to be communicated to the board. Is that a reasonable? Not that, I mean, it's just point of contact.
Yeah.
Would be the chair for any of the elected officials. Is that
That can work, and they can also come to the meeting.
come to any one of us? I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Public comment with, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's well for the elected officials if you don't want to do that and that type of thing. And then let's talk elected officials. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
How about the other commissioners?
Elected officials can really come to anybody, but certainly the chair's door is always open. Is that reasonable? So there's no one assigned, I guess, that's really the point there.
Fine, but I do have an issue with the other liaison consensus.
Okay, so that's elected officials. We'll do that. Talk to me about department heads then there, Commissioner Toman.
Well, I think it's good to have the liaison system, and I know that we all have the option to go to any meetings that we want to, but I think it's good to have one point of contact who is touching base on a more frequent basis than once or twice a year with the departments and component units.
Appreciate the comment. Thank you. Other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do think it's important that the elected officials have someone designated that they call in case of emergency. And if not, they can fall to the chairman. I think it's important that the commissioner knows they shouldn't be making decisions. This should be made by the board. It's more of a point of contact and just a link of information sharing in those points. And I think, but I do think it's important. Last year I was tasked with taking a look at the whole liaison system, and we went a different direction, but I actually met with all the department heads at that point. And even if we didn't have a set liaison, they did feel comfortable in wanting to kind of know who they would go to and points of concept. So I think that's important to look at. So.
Thank you.
And I don't think we need two. I think we need one. And I want to point that out also, because I think part of the reason you've presented changing the liaison system was for time management, for us to have other times to do other things, and rather than sitting in a bunch of board meetings, which I will continue to do and have continued to do. So having two commissioners would kind of defeat that purpose if we stayed that way.
Thank you. Good comments. Other comments?
Well, I think it is very important that we do not act as a boss to any liaison or make any kind of decisions for that entity on behalf of the commission, that if they have a concern, they should come to the commission, that we are a liaison to listen and take back to the commission the actions of that group.
Other comments? Okay, so I thought we'd put the liaison portion to bed, but kind of sounds like maybe no. Do we want to take a vote on that and formalize it? I thought we'd moved on from the liaison. But
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to maintain the liaison system, one person per entity.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
No. So it dies as a tie.
Why don't you go ahead and, I would support, why don't you go ahead and assign a contact person for the department heads? And as we discussed previously, and if you've, as we discussed previously, the component units and the outside units can come in, but we can continue to attend board meetings and continue to go to them and that type of thing. And if one of us feels near and dear to one of the outside agencies or component units, go visit with them and have them come in. I mean, that was the direction we were going. So I'd like to see us go that way, but for department heads, I'm fine with contact person, but I also support both Commissioner Tolman and Commissioner Lloyd's on the aspect that we're not bosses. We're just communicators. And then they come in and visit with us as a whole, as department heads, and the message being sent there is they work for us. We don't work for them. We're their bosses. They're not our bosses. And the other aspect of it is elected officials know that they're their bosses.
They're their own bosses. Yeah.
They're their own bosses. They're not, we don't boss them. They don't boss us. And our department heads don't boss them. Our department heads serve them. They're elected officials by the people. All right. I'm good with it,
Very good.
Chairman.
I see 4 elected officials here. Would you briefly just come up and let us know if you would you rather have somebody assigned to you as an elected official from the board, or would you rather be able to communicate to the chair or any board member if you had issues or items you needed to communicate? Mr. Davis looks like he wants to speak. We'll do, which, I mean, it's not, we're trying to make it easier. So whatever I think.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the elected officials had a Zoom meeting about this topic since it was on the agenda not too long ago. And we're really comfortable with the way it's at. We don't need I mean, if we have an issue, we'll contact the chair. That's just makes sense for us. But having an actual point of contact for us, we don't really need it. I mean, if you need to get with us, we're here all the time. And if we need to find you, we will. So we don't really feel like it's necessary for the elected officials.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just make a comment to that?
You may.
I totally agree with Mr. Davis. I think it's our job as commissioners to go in on our own and visit with the elected officials. We don't have to have a point of contact. And I think I've made a regular point of visiting with our elected officials on a regular basis and have shown availability when they've had questions or legislation they want to push. And I think that system works good. And I would encourage every commissioner to stop by their offices once every couple of months, just to say what's going on, how are things going. And I'll be honest, before I started as a commissioner, I thought Dave Davis was just the guy that sent me a tax report every year and made me angry. I didn't realize everything that happened in the assessor's office, to be honest with you. And now that I do, and I've done it because I've learned that because I've spent time with Dave. And I think if that's just, I think we don't need a system because they are an elected official. We really have no governance over their outside of their budget. And so I think not having someone tied to them is important and I think we as commissioners have to delegate and be able, not delegate, but make it an important part of our job in visiting with those elected officials on a regular basis. Right. So, and to be honest, I think that's something that's worked well. And because of that, I have a good relationship with Mr. Davis, Mr. Barbudo, and Sheriff Grossnickel. He's not thrown me in jail yet, so that's a positive thing. So I appreciate that. So
Not County Clerk Lane, though.
I have a good. I was looking. You were behind the computer, and I actually have a good communication, and so that's good there. So and Danny or Bosby and the other folks that aren't here also.
Mr. Chairman, we would encourage that as well. We like the discussion.
And Donnelly.
We want you to know what's going on, but it works better when you come and see us.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any dissenting opinions there amongst our elected officials? I'm sorry, sir, not, I'm just opening this up to the elected officials currently.
Well, Chairman Smith.
I'm sorry, the floor is not open for public comment right now.
Well, I happen to be a council member from the town of Granger, elected.
Okay.
So we haven't met yet.
Thank you.
I haven't met anybody here but Doc. He's the only one I've ever seen come to Granger. So we would invite all of you to come on out and we'll have a discussion. And so thank you for your time. And we do meet on the same days that you do, every other Tuesday of each month. So in the evening at 7 o'clock. So if you can make this meeting then today and come on out to Granger at night, please do. And I apologize for making this introduction this way. I would have preferred to introduce myself to you another way, but this is the way it worked out.
Thank you. Didn't mean any disrespect. And we are talking about our elected county officials, but thank you for the invitation. So much appreciated.
Oh, okay. Well, you said elected officials and I didn't hear county.
I didn't clarify. Yeah. So
Okay.
I apologize.
All right.
You're good.
You're welcome anytime. And I know my way out to Granger. I'll have to carpool with Doc sometime. That'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you. So our other three elected officials, are there any dissenting or differing opinions compared to Mr. Davis? I'm seeing shaking of heads. Okay. So we will not have assigned points of contact with elected officials. They can visit with the chair, whoever that may be at the time, or any of us, and we may also go visit with them. And so then that goes to our department heads. What's our thoughts there?
Mr. Chairman.
Mhm.
I can support having liaisons for the department heads, but I will stay connected to the airport. I don't want Devin to run a runway off the edge of the hill or something, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Stay
think
in
some of the
touch.
component units, especially the high dollar ones, it might be good to keep a liaison position going. But for the department heads, how about putting our name in a hat and pulling them out to kind of mix it up a little? And so we don't have biases or prejudices. We just draw for each department head, we draw one person.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I like Commissioner Tolman's idea, but I also want to remind that one of the responsibilities of chairman is to recommend appointments and for us to approve them. So just keep that in mind. If you choose to want to just assign, I'll support that as well.
Thank you. And may I sign them out of a hat?
Very good.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, hey, just one other thought on that. One thing that if we do continue with having a point of contact, I think one thing that would be good to look at is who's worked with who, because I think it's important for the commissioners to work with different department heads to expand out their knowledge. I've had the ability to work with Karen Kelly at at juvenile probation with Gene, with Gary, and with also Christina Marshall. I would be glad to work with him, but having the opportunity to work with other department heads allows me to increase my knowledge and diversify what I know. And once again, I think, one of the things I think that Chairman, when Doc was chairman, was he encouraged us to also visit with other department heads, whether we were their liaison or not. And because of that, I do make regular visits to the other department heads regularly. And I think it's important that we have that ability to do that also. But so I think as you look at those options, I'm okay if you draw out of the hat, whatever you choose. But one thing to look at is maybe change it up a little bit so we have chances to build our knowledge.
Thank you for the recommendation. Other comments?
You and Sally can do that so we can move forward.
Excellent.
You want me to provide the hat? No.
Got one over here on the floor. You've got yours too, right, Commissioner Tolman?
Yeah.
Good, good.
So we're in agreement with that,
Yep.
that we will, I'll bring forward recommendations that this board can approve or disapprove, and we can have discussion at the next meeting regarding that.
Yep.
Okay, so to clarify, elected officials will have no appointed contact person. They can contact the chair at whoever that is, or any member of the board. Liaisons, we do not have assigned liaisons to the entities, but they'll come present to us, and everybody is welcome to attend any meeting that they like. I also have great interest in the hospital, so much as Commissioner Tillman with the airport, I plan on continuing to attend those meetings, but I would not be their assigned liaison. And then department heads, as I mentioned, I will recommend and present to this board for approval at our next meeting. That good? Did I get all that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll help you.
Man, I need all the help I can get. Okay, with that, we will take a break and we will return so we'll take 15-minute break. So 10:25, please. That would be 20 minutes. How about 10:20? 10:20, 15 minutes. We're in recess. Call our meeting back to order after our recess. Good energy in the building. I'm liking this. It feels good. A lot of energy, a lot of talking going on. We are on tab N, the ratification of the CLG comments on EPA proposed decision to disapprove of Wyoming SIP revision. That is a lot of acronyms, and here to explain all those is Commissioner Toman.
Well, the letter was in the packet, Mr. Chairman, but through our involvement with the Coalition of Local Governments, we have submitted comments. The gist of the matter is we oppose them closing Jim Bridger coal down because of the haze, because the EPA in Wyoming had agreed to the plan they had, but the feds and the Department of Environmental Quality did not agree with it. And so the governor, supposedly they're trying to work out a situation where they can put it into natural gas fired instead of absolutely getting rid of unit 1 and 2 at Jim Bridger. So that's what the letter is about, stating that EPA must honor its previous acceptance of Wyoming's revised implementation plan under the previous administration in 2019 and 20. The state and Pacific Corp were relying on the work that the state completed with EPA in developing this proposed implementation plan revision, and the EPA has not provided a reasonable explanation for its change in position. So the governor assured us they are working on getting the issue resolved so that they don't shut unit 1 and 2 down on April, whatever, 4 months into this year. But we were rather surprised when that ruling came out from the Biden administration on January 1st that they were going to shut that unit down because they weren't complying with what the feds wanted. So that's the gist of the letter. I just asked for a motion. I can make a motion to ratify and accept the comments that were submitted on behalf of the county.
Thank you. Questions for Commissioner Toman?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
Commissioner Tolman, as I have read this letter several times and that type of thing and knew it was coming, pretty well aligns itself also with the governor's letter to the EPA, does it not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Other comments? No? Then I will entertain a motion to ratify the letter.
I would make that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tab O, request from Wyoming State Forestry Division to join the emergency fire suppression account. And we have Fire Warden Mike Bornasian here to present that to us. Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Morning, Chief.
It's the annual question of, do we want in or do we not want into the emergency fire suppression account? We get a letter every year inviting us to be a partner with State Forestry's emergency fire suppression account. I asked State Forestry to be here today, but they had a conflict with their schedule to answer any specific questions that you might have. With the agenda items that are laid out following this item, I don't know if you want to table this we have time, or if you want to make a decision whether to go in and out or wait and see what the outcome of the findings are, recommendations from the fire department committee as far as fire service and how that may impact and what role the suppression account may play if different than in the past, because we've never joined in the suppression account. As you see before you, I believe it's $140,000 to join, and then it'd be X amount of dollars thereafter. That dollar figure would vary based on our tax valuation. So it's in your packet, the letter from the state. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll let you decide what you want to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, question.
can I ask Mr. Bernasian a question?
You may, feel free.
Thank you. Mr. Warden Bernasian, my question is with the fire suppression account paying into this, I know we've never done it ever as a county. Even when our departments had looked different in different sizes and contracted out at points too. What do we get? What is the value add from the suppression account? What do we get? Do we get just money to help pay for fire in case it happens? Do we get resources? What comes from this account?
It's strictly a financial support from the state of Wyoming out of that account. That account has dedicated dollars from legislature. It varies from 10 million to 20 million. It's available to all the counties and departments that are part of that emergency fire suppression account across the state. So in a bad fire season, that account can get pretty tapped. Other seasons, it stays fairly well supplied with funds. Once you enter into the suppression account and you pay your upfront 3 years of valuation, then you pay an annual valuation. Then if we were to have a large fire in the county and we applied, it has to qualify based on expenses primarily and involvement, FMAG, things like that. Then you have to meet your floor cost. State Forestry couldn't give me our floor cost when I spoke to our district forester specifically, but I believe he did say he thought it was somewhere in the range of 15 to 20,000. And that's a one-time floor cost for your first fire. We'll cover your floor costs for a second or third fire.
Is this annual or?
It's annual.
Annual. Okay, thank you.
It's annual. Yeah. So it's a substantial cost. We have not been in the suppression account. We're the only county that's not now. Uinta County wasn't in until they had a very large urban interface fire called the Tokawana fire, which we assisted on for multiple days. Lost a lot of homes in that fire. They since joined, and Campbell County has had several significant fires in the last few years because fire behavior is increasing, obviously. And they've elected to go into the suppression account, I believe 2, maybe 3 years ago. So we are the lone, they look as the lone holdout.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Well, as I understand it then, Mr. Bornasian, it is an insurance policy, but you're not guaranteed you're going to get full payment for a fire. I know when Lincoln County had the fire, their costs exceeded, and they have to share with the other entities that have fires. So you may not get a big payback. You do not get resources. They don't send fire trucks to fight your fire. It's simply an insurance policy, a fund, and we've never participated. And I know forestry would love us to participate because it adds to the account, but personally, I don't think this is a benefit to the county. We are 70% public lands right now. And this is more for private property types of fires anyway, isn't it?
Well, our cost generally associated with large fires is based on our cost shares through our AOP is
Right.
primarily based upon land ownership. So
Yeah.
the percentage of private land equals our percentage of share of payment to the fire. So, and that's kind of how we stand. So now, obviously, we have a great relationship with the BLM and the Forest Service, and they do really good to take care of us. But you never know what fire season is going to bring, and I'll never predict it.
Historically, have we had fires that would have kicked this in after our deductible is paid? Do you know that? Have we had those kind of fires ever?
In the 7 years I've been here, March marks 7 years. We've not. Prior to that, I am aware of one down in the Sage Creek area, came off the gorge area over to 191, very large fire. And I'm sure it would have met the threshold for that, but that's the only one that I'm aware of to this point.
No. Any other questions?
Based on that, I don't think it's something that we have to table. I don't.
Okay.
I would just recommend that we not get involved, and I think you've recommended that in the past also.
I have, but obviously there's a lot of discussion going on about the future of fire protection in the county, and just want to make sure that we all understand that it could play a role differently than it has in the past. So that's all.
Thank you. So commissioners, what's your pleasure regarding the agreements with the emergency fire suppression account?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd vote that I'd make a motion to table this until we hear the other discussions that occur today and see the direction we're going to be able to have a full educated discussion.
Thank you. This is not due till July 15th. So
No, not, and
Um,
maybe next meeting or something, but so I guess it would be more of a postponement because a table would be within the meeting. So
Thank you.
I'd like
That's
to
what I was-
amend my motion by saying I'd like to make a postponement of this. At maybe discussion at the next meeting or the meeting after based upon discussion further happening today.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone deliberating this agreement until a later date, we'll just say. Is that okay? Is that okay, Commissioner Lloyd? If we just say a later date? Do you want it at the next meeting?
Yeah, do I have to put a timeline on it, John, or can I
I'm
just
saying
postpone?
to a later date.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, do not need a time frame. You can, if you just postpone, then it can come whenever the
That's what I
board
was looking
chooses.
for. Can we just postpone it and not say next meeting?
Yeah.
Is that okay, Commissioner Lloyd?
That would be my motion.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion to postpone. Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing no second, then the postponement fails for a lack of a second. Any other pleasures, Commissioner?
I just recommend no action, that we don't participate.
So you recommend we do not approve?
Well, I don't think it takes a motion.
No,
Does not, no.
Mr. Chairman, motion is not required.
No. So is there any other pleasure? Any?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe it requires a signature, though, to not participate.
Mr. Chairman, just a moment.
Mr. De Leon, what do you have for us? I do see that there is the county of Sweetwater desires not to participate. So we will need to take action on this one way or another.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to not participate.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, discussion.
Mhm.
I'd like to note that I am going to be voting no, because I don't think we should be making this decision until we know the future and having more discussion. I also think this is a big picture of a whole also as we get into Mr. Bernazian's presentation and the presentation of the committee, that at this point, Commissioner Shainfeld has not is not at the meeting. And I think as we look at the future of this situation, I think we need to make sure we're listening to people, but also having all concepts of the 5 commissioners as a whole make a decision. So I'm going to stand strongly and I will vote no, because I don't think we are able to make this decision until we have heard the facts and made further decisions as a whole. And I think making this decision this way is making it blind. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Other discussion? I will say that if we desire not to participate today, I am guessing that if we go back to this group in June and say, hey, you know what, we want to pay our dues and we want to join, I don't think there would be any problem. So I'm quite sure they'll allow us into the elite club, but that's just my guess. So I appreciate your thoughts there, Commissioner Lloyd. Any other discussion at all? Okay. All those in favor of not participating in the emergency fire suppression account, say aye.
And authorize.
Aye.
And authorize the chairman to sign.
Aye.
And opposed?
I'm against.
Thank you. It passes. Oh, okay. John, you looked like you were doing something there. Okay, we need just a moment to set up a presentation here. And Cindy, will you watch for Lauren?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe this is where we amended our agenda to go into an executive session. I'll make a motion to go into executive session for contracts, because that's what's next if we move forward.
I had executive
Legal.
session prior to tab Q. We're on
Where
tab-
we at?
We're on tab P. Don't scare me there, Doc.
Oh, my bad. My apologies.
Okay, we will do executive session before tab Q.
That sounds good. Thank you. I didn't write it on my agenda. I just didn't do it, chief.
No worries.
Thanks.
We good now? While we're waiting, let's, well, maybe we shouldn't without Sally here. Huh? Do commissioner comments?
Oh, wait, where'd she go?
Excellent. Well, that wasn't so long. Thank you, Sally. Welcome aboard, Commissioner Shanefield. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How are things in Boise?
Fine so far. I'm still at the airport.
Perfect. We appreciate you jumping on during a busy day for you. We have Warden Bornasian here with us. He's going to do his presentation about the fire year and the department. So the review. He's just loading up the thumb drive and looks like we got it fired up.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Welcome aboard.
I take full ownership in not having that ready for you. So,
You sent it to us. We had it. Nobody else had it.
well, it's all good.
All good.
Okay, so get on track. What I have for you today is just a brief overview. I sent my numbers and statistics and all that, so we wouldn't belabor anybody's time today with those those things. What I would like to do for your benefit, and more importantly, or as important, I should say, the community's benefit of an overview of county fire. So we've had a county fire warden in place since 1974. And since 74, I'm currently the 4th county fire warden the county has hired. I came here March 2015. County fire originally and still is and always has been in the same building, 430 West Blair. Used to be not very recognizable by the public. Had that pretty baby green look to it. And it had a cyclone fence that continued all the way across the front on the fire department side, so you couldn't access it from the front by the public. One of the first things we did was take that fence down and paint the building. Interestingly enough, while we were doing that, we had a local citizen stop by and voice her concern because she thought it was the county jail and why are we taking down the fence? So I assured her it was not the county jail. The sheriff's office has a much better facility for that. So it is small. It has suited our needs for quite some time, but it's definitely an older building. So county fire has a full-time county fire warden, deputy fire warden. It had 28 volunteers. They were volunteers, but they did receive pay. How that worked, I'm not 100% sure. But I can assure you, talking to some of those volunteers, they had a very interesting history and did a lot of firefighting across the entire county, including the western third of this county, west of Green River, and all the way out past Wamsutter. And they did more than just wildland fire. So they've responded historically to lots of different fires. The county fire department covers the unincorporated area of the county. It's 6,400 square miles. That's a lot of acres. There's over 8,000 oil and gas wells they protect in the unincorporated area of the county, and we continue to do so today. During the time prior to me, they collected a lot of equipment. And that equipment was sometimes federal excess personal property, majority of it, which means it came from the state through the federal system. The state then disseminates it out, military surplus for lack of a better term. So they've also responded to fires all over the country. Prior to my arrival, they're involved with Yellowstone's first mega fire this country ever witnessed in '88. Been in California, Florida, Colorado, Utah, Montana, and Idaho, utilizing that excess personal property. Little known fact that 2003, when this country experienced the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster, they mobilized the wildland fire community and garnished all the help they could, and Sweetwater County Fire Department stepped up to the call and responded with 2 crews to help the gridding over 2.3 million acres for remains of not only the crew, but the entire shuttle. It was a task that I know personally from very close friends who participated in that event, very traumatic. They still think about it today. And I'm happy to say that Sweetwater County Fire Department played a role in meeting a national disaster outside of just fire. But it's because of fire that they were able to fulfill that. 2015, I came on board. I was tasked and hired by this board and directed to build relationships. Relationships weren't in the best of shape at the time with a lot of different entities. To build relationships with landowners, communities, other departments in and adjacent to the county. I was also tasked with and had a great opportunity to work with the board at that time in eliminating a lot of old property that was high maintenance, low reliability, inadequately operated and really needed to be taken care of. So we started with cleaning out the fire station. And that was a process. But through the county's help, we went out with all the old equipment, including our structure engine, command bus, which former Warden Washington had built. Believe it or not, that bus was on a lot of large fires in the state and was used to house administrative support for paperwork and processing. So it did serve a really good purpose. Just interesting, it was us that had it. Then the commission jumped on board and immediately was already involved with a SLIB grant with a 50-50 match for a new tactical water tender. Actually, it was a mega tanker, and we revamped it to more of what our actual needs are here in the county and our role with the county. And then the county jumped right in and the board approved the authorization to move forward and purchase 2 brand new quick attacks. Those quick attacks are a little bit more, they're enhanced. They're not typically just your wildland rig. They have a 2-stage pump, 500 gallons and injected foam. They can do a lot and continue to do so. In 2019, we completed a military build on a newer version. We got rid of all but one of the older trucks, the 70 series, and went to a new modernized military truck, 90 series. A lot safer, a lot more reliable, better for operation. It's a 2.5 ton. And today, it's what saves our other trucks from being beat up out in the brush. This truck comes down and it works through that stage really well for us. And it creates longevity for our other equipment. As well as the side-by-side we replaced. We had a 07 side-by-side, which was a 6-wheeler. The fire package we had wouldn't fit on the new Polaris. So we kept it as a unit and currently have that available to the Granger Fire Department for their river bottom fires and incidents. It's well suited for them. And then, of course, after 6 consecutive years of trying to land a AFG grant through FEMA, we were successful last year and are currently working with Rosenbauer to build us a brand new Type 1, Type 3. It meets both those standards for the National Fire Protection Agency of a structural and a wildland urban interface engine. It'll carry 1,000 gallons of water and all the equipment necessitated to protect and suppress structure fire and wildland fire while having pump and roll capability. The Type 3 engine is something that this county really lacks and is, in my opinion, as a county fire warden, is in need of. And I'm glad we got it. So out with our old fleet, in with the new fleet, and we greatly downsized, which I believe made us more efficient. And we're more efficient now than we ever were 6 years ago in a lot of different areas: performance, productivity, dollars spent for maintenance, and the fact that we can more aggressively fight wildland fires and still continue to play that role on the occasional vehicle fire, structure fire, or oil and gas fire. The county fire department is made up of full-time seasonal volunteer firefighters. They're all trained, they're all qualified in wildland and or structural firefighting. We currently have 15 certified structural firefighters. All of our firefighters are wildland certified with a myriad of other qualifications, including those to help with the seat base. We have 15 folks qualified to help with the new seat base and some other specific areas, including qualified sawyers. I think it's important to note that the value and benefit to the county is more than just firefighting. We are the workforce when it comes to everybody in this county works. I'm not taking anything away from any other department, but when it comes to manpower in numbers, we are the workforce. We work right alongside other departments, purchasing, facilities, others. Okay, but we're also the workforce outside of the county, in the cities and the towns. We work throughout the year on various projects and have always responded to any call for service, regardless of what it was. Prior to my being here, there was no public fire prevention being done in the outlying schools. And we made sure to take that on. What we really do when we're not fighting fires called project work. People want to know what project work. Basically, it's work that keeps us fit, keeps us busy, keeps us outside, keeps us out in the county, in the unincorporated areas of the county, and within other cities and towns. It's generally clearing overgrown brush in our county parks, then burning piles of slash that is created. It entails utilizing our sawyers to drop limb and buck up hazard trees that are primarily cottonwood trees. And cottonwoods are extremely dangerous tree. They are very unreliable and very difficult to fell because of the nature of how they rot, which is interior, not visible to the exterior. So from a sawyer's perspective, they're challenging. We have a lot of cottonwoods, especially in Pioneer Trails Park, because that used to be all floodplain before the dam. And now those trees don't have that water supply when the river ran amok, and it competes with the overgrown brush for that moisture in the ground. In comparison, Park and Rec has had to get a bid or two once in a while to find out what it would cost to remove a large cottonwood tree that we may consider a complex tree to fall or buck up. You're looking at $1,500 to $2,000 per tree. We took care of that one specifically in about 3 hours. There's a lot of value in our qualifications outside of firefighting. In the parks, we do thinning, brushing, fall numerous hazard trees. And those trees continue to be evaluated every year. When we first started, we had all sorts of hazard trees and widow makers over all the playgrounds. Several of those playgrounds were overgrown with brush themselves, including the horseshoe pits and other things. Not because anybody did anything wrong. It just was one of those things that the prior leadership before Gene and the rest of them got here, and Chris took a really aggressive approach to managing our parks, and they are a wonderful place today. We just have some catch up to do on our overgrown brush and trying to reduce that fuel, which is actually a fire hazard. We spend hundreds of hours doing it. It takes a long time to show production, and it's definitely another 5 to 10 years of trying to get that to where it should be. I'd like to demonstrate that from a before picture on one of the loops. There's playground, horseshoes, and all kinds of stuff hiding through there you can't see. Now, granted, the next picture is after, and it's in the winter, so the foliage is off the trees. But I ask you if that's a park-like setting or if that's more of a park-like setting. It definitely opens it up. It opens it up not only for habitat, but for those that use the park. Your kids can be at the playground and you can go for a walk and still see your kids playing. And before this, you could not. We've removed so much trash that was collected over the years, just overgrown in brush. And that'll prompt a healthier tree system as well for the cottonwoods to prosper in Pioneer Trails and our other parks. So I'm not sure how you put a price on any of that, but I know there is, but some things you can't put a price to because peace of mind doesn't have a price sometimes. Other project work includes Arrowhead Springs, Reliance, Big Sandy, the archery range, out at the airport and the trap club. And we've done numerous projects to improve those parks and work with Parks and Rec, who does a great job, takes care of a lot of work out there, but sometimes you just need an extra boost. And we're there to provide that for them on a continuing basis. One of the things that I took on 3 years ago was approaching their state land on Little Mountain. Little Mountain has not been touched for fire mitigation, fuels reduction. And it is a big issue. We have very few timber stands in this county, Pine Mountain primarily, along with Little Mountain. So working with state forestry, I was able to secure a small grant that covers our expenses, not our labor, and our fuel to and from the project site. And we are now engaged in fuel reduction of dead and down trees, reducing the fire load on Little Mountain. It's very thick. It's a very slow process. It's not something we do every day, but we do it early in the spring or later in the fall. Until hunting season comes, it's not a good place to be because you might catch a stray arrow. So we try to stay out of there and hunting season starts up. But it's important that the board realizes work needs to be done up there, whether it's the BLM, the state, or us. And right now, nobody's doing it but us. Does a project work out of Granger. Worked with them on a river path project, put 104 hours of man hours in there, clearing brush, debris from the shoreline, and opening up a walkway for them to improve and develop a 1 mile long river walk area. We've worked to reduce fuels within the city of Rock Springs around some of our county buildings. This one here is the library. We are the leader in the fire side of supporting the Fire Law Leadership Academy. We currently are teaching the red card class again this year, and we're up to 21 students. The red card class is your basic wildland fire qualifications to be a wildland firefighter. 21 students will graduate Rock Springs High School with the minimum qualifications to enter into a seasonal wildland firefighter position anywhere in the United States. We've never had this amount of increase, this amount of participation. We usually get 6 or 8 kids, and the program has just grown. Mr. Kunnell does an amazing job. We have an amazing relationship with those fine young men and women. We job shadow with them starting introducing ourselves as sophomore year. We job shadow with them juniors and seniors, and then we offer the red card class and incident command system certification and training as well. It's all supported by fire district, city fire, the sheriff's office plays a big role on the law enforcement side, fish and game, all the different entities come together. It's a great program. I'd love to see it expanded to other high schools. It is an opportunity for us to recruit from locally, which we didn't have prior. Floods, I think I heard the sheriff's office mention this earlier. We were a big participant in sandbagging and getting majority of the sandbags done, along with some other fire departments, inmates from the jail, and other organizations. Our portable pumps, our small portable pumps, have been called on by City Fire twice now for flooding, because we can get them down in the basements and in the window wells. So, and get that water out of there sooner to improve the homeowners' ability to assess their damages. During the ice storm, we all remember the ice storm, I'm sure, right? Had all the trees come down. It was our Sawyers that took the lead out there, answering the call, along with other folks, private industry, other departments and agencies, other county departments, and clearing roads and things like that. Having certified Sawyers in the program made a big difference there. Even when it wasn't fire season at the moment, we definitely had value. We've been out to Granger, helping with some road work repairs, patching, fixing potholes, cracks, things like that. Where the county road ends, it becomes a town road. This last year, we took the challenge and were asked to help build the Western Wyoming Community College's mountain bike trail. It's a 3-mile system, and it kicked our butt. You can ask any of the gentlemen or ladies behind me that participated. We actually could only work a few hours a day because we still need to be fire ready and couldn't be exhausted. But we did majority of the man hours on that project, and we're actively engaged. We split our crew so we could still have a presence in the county at the parks, and then we alternate them back and forth between parks and this project. And this project is, I'm very excited for it, and I look forward to being able to do more of that out across the county on the BLM lands. A few other things we do, we've got the Adopt a Highway program in the rural areas. Again, anything we can do to keep us out in the unincorporated areas of the county. We don't sit in Rock Springs all day at the old green, now white fire station waiting for the pager to go off. We add value in a lot of different ways. We have fun while we're doing it. This year we got in the chili cook-off at the school. We do the parades and things like that. And again, manpower, we moved the conservation district from Rock Springs to Green River. We delivered COVID tests when we ran out of transportation during the COVID response for 2020. We're also heavily engaged in the incident management team and the EOC that managed that incident. We work closely with some ranchers and farmers. Farson, a few years back, had a real problem with barley and some type of a worm, or I don't want to use the wrong term, but there was a bug out there. They didn't like it. They wanted to get it out. So we went out and helped anyone that needed to control burns on their farm or their ranch. We also burned the ditches out at the park, because that ditch is a good carrier for water for irrigation out there. So we try and keep it clear and open. We responded to the pileup on I-80. You know, we had the big one. And while we weren't out there taking the lead on extrication, Fire District 1 really did a great job doing that. And so did Wamsutter. But while they're busy doing their level of expertise, you can't do it alone. It took a lot of people, a lot of cars, just to assess who needed help, who needed to get out of the cold, who needed a warm cup of coffee, and assessing and triaging other vehicles. Because we got a giant pressure washer on wheels, we get called to help wash down a lot of things. This, we're cleaning the Justice Center. Had some buildup of let's just say remnants of what birds eat all over the walls and some other things. When the pump went down at Jamestown, we made numerous trips over there to try to keep water in the pond. I can tell you 18,000 gallons a day might raise that pond 2 inches. So.
Chief, Chairman, I think your slide shows one off.
No.
Nope. Okay.
There?
We're good.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. Again, we're the manpower for the county. And we provide assistance to other departments in the county, have and always will do and continue to be that, and invite them to anything we have going on or aware of. As a county fire warden, it's one of my responsibilities to help coordinate that. So while the BOCC considers the future of its own department, we, the county fire department, ask and hope you have an understanding of where we come from and what's been accomplished by county fire. County fire is more than just a fire department. We are a community-based public service, and the ones this county and its small towns call upon to assist when there's no one else to call. As you ask yourselves, what can you afford to provide for the county in the way of fire protection and suppression capabilities? We want you to realize the cost of not providing these services, as they have been for the past 40 years. The additional service and expertise we bring to other departments, agencies, and most importantly, community. And as you go in and you will listen to the findings of the special committee, and efficiency is going to be discussed, and the reality of efficiency is it's dollars. I just ask that you please consider the actual cost of the budget I'm proposed and things like that, and how that weighs against the actual and true cost of contracting, not just with 2 departments, but with a third. If you go with 2, it'll take a third to cover the whole county. And that's going to change the dollar figures that will be presented today. Some people ask, what's a county fire warden do? Well, by statute, fire wardens are their duly designated representatives shall be responsible for management of fire suppression, fire prevention, and related activities, except within any incorporated city, town, or fire district, and responsible for coordinating fire suppression and fire prevention activities among all county fire agencies. I was hired to fulfill these requirements, and to the best of my ability have done so. In addition, we have formal mutual aid agreements in place with not only our internal county fire departments, but now with those that border us, and we have grown to work closely with and support each other in not just fires, but in a variety of incidents. I can assure you, no single fire department can answer every call all the time, 100%. It takes all of us to come together in those times of need. And as a fire warden, it's my job to help maintain that we're ready to do that. And we work together at all levels. So when we are called to work on a large incident, we have trust in each other, and we know each other, and we can clearly communicate with each other. That's what the county fire warden does. Sweetwater County is like no other county in Wyoming. We border 2 states, 5 counties. We have mutual aid agreements with outside entities and internal entities. We're the largest, we're the most vast. Nobody else has 6,400 square miles in a corporate area. As a county fire warden, I want to visualize for you for just a moment of the various departments and agencies we have to work with. You're talking Carbon County, Fremont County, Sublette, you went to Manila, Fremont's County Fire District, the Lincoln County Fire District, Moffett County SO, have to coordinate with, communicate with, as well as the Wyoming Fire Chiefs and Rural Firefighters Associations, the Wyoming State Forestry Division, the Wyoming State Fire Marshal's Office, the Casper Interagency Center, Sweetwater Combined Communications Center, our 911, Uinta Basin Interagency Dispatch Center in Vernal for those incidents along the gorge, which is the Ashley National Forest. And then our AOP says we will do so. The Wyoming DEQ for air quality. When somebody wants to burn in the county, we ask them to call the county fire warden, have a discussion about what they're burning, when they want to burn, make sure it's safe to do so, and that meets the requirements of DEQ. Then you've got all the fire departments within the county: Superior, Wamsutter, Bear Oil, Rock Springs, Eden, Farson District, the Rock Springs BLM, Sweetwater County Fire District 1, Granger, Green River, and the Ashley National Forest. So there's a lot going on in the county. There's a lot going on with the county fire department, and there's a lot that it takes to make the department work and function, and as the role of the county fire warden. I would ask that a little bit of time be afforded for some folks that are here today, perhaps after the committee makes its presentation, that would like to speak to the board. And I'd ask that that be afforded to them. At this time, I know that in the public packet, there are 3 options going to be proposed to the County Board of Commissioners, as requested by you to do so. Of those 3, the committee decided to make a recommendation to the board, which I was not aware was going to happen because I didn't believe that was part of the assignment of the committee. So the committee has made a recommendation of one of the options that will be presented and discussed later. And that option is to do away with the county fire department and contract its services. As a county fire warden and the most knowledgeable and currently of what goes on in the county with fire, I don't feel that's in the best interest of the county. I believe the committee was to look for efficiencies and ways to do a better job with what we had at a less cost, obviously, because dollars is what matters and was very prevalent in our discussions. And unification was discussed, and redundancy of service, redundancy of equipment, the opinion that there's too much equipment in the county, things like that. We all agree that we need a unified fire service in this county of some magnitude. We all know that it would take a lot of work to get there because we have fire districts already created that have their own tax base and do a great job within those districts. If we go contract, we're doing away with the one department that covers the greatest amount of area in this county. I would propose a 4th option. The only reason I would propose a 4th option now and not prior is because I could not get buy-in and commitment until Friday. Not because I wanted to wait, but I had to be reassured. This option didn't start with me, but I've always supported it. The option is this: if we want unification, if we want to work together and reduce the amount of equipment, duplicated services, and redundancy in our dispatching and sending trucks to fires, then I would propose that we enter into a memorandum of understanding with the two largest supporters in the county when it comes to unincorporated areas of the county. That is the Granger Volunteer Fire Department and the Wamsutter Volunteer Fire Department, who are both on board, and Granger actually approached me with this and started the discussion. What this will do is bring us together. It'll take 3 departments and make 1. The current proposal is to eliminate 1 and still have 8. This would unify these resources. This would bolster the services being provided in our 2 furthest locations. County Fire would downsize its response and equipment here locally and would move that equipment out to Wamsutter and Granger. We've already secured housing in Wamsutter. We've utilized that housing in the past. We have the ability to staff 6 months out of the year and reduce our response time and no longer need to send equipment from this area out to that area if that area has a crew ready to go. Volunteer firefighters are mostly unavailable during work hours. We would bolster the service and the level of certification that would be available to those outlying areas. Another big component to that is communications. Currently, Wamsutter's dispatched through Rawlins, and they communicate with Rawlins. We've had many discussions with our combined communications center about how do we get them on board so we can dispatch 911 and Wamsutter Fire Department. This would improve that to be able to do so. We have to work out some things to get that done, but it can be done. We'll then have the ability to get some of the older equipment out from those departments and introduce some of our equipment into those departments. We can then respond to all calls with them, train with them, bolster their level of service, and make sure that we're using our equipment a lot more efficiently and effectively than we do now. And I believe we can do it with no increase to the county fire budget. The one exception may be utilities for those 2 housing locations while we're staffing. But it would keep our crews out there so they're available during the day, they're on shift, and then at night they're still there to respond, just as if they were here. We rotate those crews around. We're already doing this in concept. We're already putting our equipment out in the county where it needs to be for fire response. 72% of the fires that we respond to are not on the interstate, but 28% are. The I-80 corridor is huge. We would improve that response time. We would not need to go into contracts with 2, 3 other entities. So I would ask that you consider that as you listen to the committee's findings and all the great info that's been collected. And I ask you to not close the county fire department. I ask you to actually look at ways that meets the findings of the committee. I believe that option 4 meets every single finding of that committee, and I'm not sure option 3 would. So with that, I'm open for any questions, or we'll be happy to sit down.
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation there and a better understanding of what county fire is all about. And also appreciate the another option. You know, we're always looking to do what's best and willing to listen to every option out there. So any questions for Chief Barnesian at the moment?
Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Yeah, thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Bernasian, I do appreciate you bringing up a 4th option, but I do wish we would have had that. I know you said it started coming together on Friday. Some heads up would have been appropriate in this situation. Bringing it to us at the last second, I think is unfair. I will definitely take a look at it, and I think it's important. But if you were working through this and you and I have had continued communication, including multiple emails on Monday and Tuesday, I think it would have been appropriate to share this could be an option, because I probably would have made time to go and sit and meet with you regarding it. And I have showed you and demonstrated this entire time that I have reached out and talked to you individually and have communicated you. So I do think it would have been important to have that information prior to getting here. I think this also answer my second question, because we often talk about transparency in the room, and I was going to ask what the sidebar was in a public meeting, but I think we just found out what that was. But this is a public meeting, but I think I do appreciate the other option. I do think it's important that we take a look and discuss it. I think that's why it was requested for, now I think I understand why it was requested for a contracts discussion. And once again, I think bringing that to all four of us and being able to have that discussion prior and having able to look at that information would have been important. So, but I will afford taking a look at that information.
Mr.
during the
Chairman,
meeting.
counterpoint.
Yeah, of course.
That was not the reason for the executive session.
Fair enough. That was a wrong assumption on my part.
I didn't have my PowerPoint available to display.
Okay.
That was why we had the sidebar. And I can assure you, I was up to 1 o'clock last night trying to figure out how to even say this. So this was the last minute. It was holding nothing back. It wasn't, we've had great discussions. You've asked great questions. And I apologize if you feel offended that I brought it before the committee now. But literally it took me all weekend to figure out what this would look like and would it really work and how would it work. And like I said, at 1 o'clock this morning, I finally came up with some ideas to say to you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll comment on that by saying that Mr. Bornasian did give me a heads up last night as the chair, later last evening, that this could be a possibility. And I encouraged him to bring forward every option. So perhaps that's on me as well. So I apologize for that, for not making my other commissioners aware, but we didn't really have like he said, he was working through it and will be presented today. So.
And one other thing too is, Mr. Chairman, is during the public comment period afterwards, somebody else may bring up another option that they didn't call or share with us or the committee. So we would listen and consider all things. At least I will. So I'm not, I understand where Commissioner Lloyd's coming from and I respect that. But at the same token, you're not going to take that same feeling if a public person comes up with a better plan. Correct, Commissioner Lloyd?
Yes, if I can respond to that, absolutely. I'll listen to the public person.
No, but I meant you're going to take it the same way, being offended.
No,
If
I'm
it's a
not,
community
because
person.
Okay, we'll bring this back to order here. Thank you. Commissioner Toman, you had a
I make a comment, Mr. Chairman, if I
Commissioner
keep it
Tillman.
civil and nice.
Commissioner Toman.
Well, Chief Bornasian, you were a member of our special committee that has met over 12 times since December 7th. And to point to Granger and Wamsutter, you were considered in our discussions and you will not be left out no matter what alternative we take. So this is not a new idea. And I'm very disappointed that you would bring it up as a fourth option, but that's all I'll say.
Thank you.
Because it has always been on the table.
Any questions and not consternation for Mr. Bornasian?
Well, I'd comment on that. It hasn't always been on table because it doesn't show up in the packet as an option unification, which is something we've talked about for a long time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, Mr. Lloyd.
Just want to make a point that that I think if a person from the public did make the comment, I would listen, just as I am willing to listen to Mr. Bornasian. My simple point was Mike and I, Warden and I had multiple emails and conversations yesterday, and I do believe there would have been ample opportunity to say, hey, Roy, let me throw this idea at you in a different way, because we did have open communication. And I do believe, I think that would have been a proper heads up, but I am going to look at it unbiasedly and take a look at the option and the information, because that's my job. But what I was simply saying is, when you're having multiple conversations, there would have been a great chance to say, hey, this is another idea. So that's all.
Thank you. I think I didn't hear any questions there at all. So
thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. And we are in our amended agenda, now going to move into executive session.
May I call for a 5-minute break? I need to make a call.
Can we make a motion to go into executive session and then have the break as part of the comment? Is that fair enough?
That's fine.
All right. And Mr. Chairman, it's all right with you, rather than ask all these people to leave, I'm wondering if we couldn't move over into the Castle Rock room.
We can. Let's do that.
Okay.
Little
We need
cozier.
to, Commissioner Shanefield.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We we don't want to leave it out of the discussion.
Does that technology hook up over there? Well, we're going to take a break. Maybe Tim can come up and get it hooked up.
Christina can probably help out too. She uses.
Yeah,
the
somebody
lines.
can. Before we move forward into it, we'll make sure that Commissioner Shanefield's connected. So, all right, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll
So
second.
moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will meet in executive session in the Castle Rock room at 11:25, 5 minutes, 11:25.